Welcome to Enlightenment with Julian Nicholas, your gateway to a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. In each episode, Julian delves into the essence of wisdom and self-esteem, offering insights and messages to inspire your growth. Now, here's your host, Julian Nicholas, to guide you on this transformative journey towards living your best life.
I'm very excited for today's episode. If you are a new listener, it is a pleasure to meet you. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. Before we really talk about the topic, I'd like to announce that I have a TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube page where you can practically find almost everything related to the Enlightenment podcast. Instagram and TikTok will be the places where you can see both highlights from the episodes as well as any announcements like a new episode being released. Not only that, you can also DM me personally and get to talk to me, the host with the most, when it comes to advice at least. Remember that the podcast is not just a place for emotional education, but it's also a place for you to get mental help and emotional improvement. As for YouTube, it's also a place where you can watch some of the highlights from the episodes, but you can also watch the full episodes there in case if you don't have Spotify or Apple Podcasts. The YouTube channel is the same name as the podcast, Enlightenment with Julian Nicholas. The Instagram is at Enlightenment_pod, and the TikTok is the.enlightenment7. However, all of these can be found in the link in the description. Now, in today's episode, I will be telling you about communication and emotions. Cambridge presents communication as the exchange of information and the expression of feeling that can result in understanding. Now, this is actually close to my personal idea of what communication means in this context. In my eyes, communication means to have the ability to convey and express your emotions in a healthy way. But essentially, the core of the point I'm trying to make is that communication is simply being able to tell someone how you feel in a healthy and effective way to where not only they can understand you, but you can understand yourself. When I say that, I mean where not only communicating your emotions help people understand and the reasons behind your actions or the emotions you carry, but also helps you better understand yourself. That way, you can really look and reflect on how a situation may be affecting you and how you can really acknowledge that, to be aware that this is an issue and the steps you have to take to change it and to probably find a solution to said issue. Communicating your feelings to a trusted person brings benefits to yourself. Other than how it gives people and even yourself a better understanding of what you're facing and how you can tackle it, talking about how you feel can also help you let things go in a more easy and healthy way. Communicating with someone you trust gives you that sense of clarity once you divulge your emotions to that person that you have faith in, that you can trust when it comes to telling how you feel. It releases this boulder you carry on your back, and it helps you feel that huge sigh of relief once you got all that pressure from that boulder off your back. Once you release all that tension within yourself, it might even feel like at that moment, at least, the greatest thing ever. That massive boulder of all those negative thoughts and bottled up emotions just rolls away once it's off your back and eventually breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces every time it stumbles down the mountainous steps you've taken to get to that sense of relief and satisfaction. However, one must be aware of the dangers of having that boulder of negativity and negative emotions. Right? Repeat. However, one must be aware of the dangers of having that boulder of negativity on your back for so long. The problem is that just like your emotions, the pain from all that pressure that you carry with that boulder, it arises when it simply goes ignored and unresolved. You see, when you bottle up all that anger and emotion, like stress, for example, and sadness, you're only hurting yourself mentally and emotionally. You're permitting your body to be a vessel and to harbor and store those raw emotions. It's just not released in the best way that it could have been. Maybe you had a tiring week. Not only that you are tired, but you're also stressed and angry because you know next week it'll be more stressful. Maybe you have someone who is bothering you, or you have a large workload that needs to get done. Maybe you're in a group and no one in the group is doing their fair share, and you're just carrying the whole team, and you're just seething with rage and anger, and you're just frustrated because you're the only one participating in the group, that you're the only person that's doing all the work, while the group just sits there and try to mooch off of you and think they'll get a higher grade because of your hard work. Maybe you're depressed and you're having a hard time expressing how you feel, whether it's out of fear or you just don't have the needed emotional skills to tell someone how you truly feel. Instead of finding a proper outlet to discuss your problems, you just allow them to eat at your mind and your body and really cloud your mind. You don't give yourself that release when it comes to telling people how you feel. And you just feel like yelling from the deepest part of your lungs for even just the smallest infractions. Many would call this stage by various names: the point of no return, the breaking point, the last straw moment. However, no matter what one may call it, the causes and the outcomes are still the same. It builds up all those negative and unhealthy emotions and culminates into the flourishing of the negative energy within all aspects of yourself, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually even. And when it isn't addressed or cared for, you finally reach that point to where you are sick and tired of how everything is going, and you lash out at almost everything or everyone within that range. Even though you may seem like you're finally releasing and addressing all those ignored and unheard feelings, in reality, it is in a way where it cannot only hurt yourself, but also hurt people around you, especially who didn't even deserve the feeling of rage and wrath in the first place. It just puts you in a deeper situation with both the person you yelled at and demeaned and yourself. Keeping your emotions to yourself is not only a destructive behavior towards other people and your relationships with them, it is also a self-destructive behavior that further damages your health and well-being severely. Let us ask ourselves, why do we bottle our emotions? Why do we try to keep things to ourselves, even when we know it's not healthy? We can narrow some of these down to a few points. One point is the fear of hurting someone. Sometimes in our lives, we allow our feelings to determine our next step, our next move, and what actions we will take. And one of those feelings is that of fear. When deciding to tell someone how we feel, one of the first things we are consumed with as people is with fear. With fear, we are afraid to discuss and tell people how we truly feel. This can stem from pre-existing anxiety to just basic human fear of one's reaction. As people, we tend to feel a sense of fear when it comes to telling others how we feel because we are afraid to hurt them, to make them feel upset and angry by how we feel. We try not to upset people with what we have to say, especially the people we love. That fear of upsetting people can make someone like you or me even become dormant when we try to express ourselves and how we feel. to people. Another thing that makes us fearful about expressing our emotions is the idea of being vulnerable, which is actually another point. When discussing vulnerability, many use that as a reason why they fear expressing themselves. Many would validly believe that being vulnerable can be used against them or to hurt them. This can stem from past experiences that they had when it comes to telling people how they feel, instead of them being a source of guidance and to help them through their emotions. They took advantage of them. They used their emotions and what they're feeling against them to hurt them more than what they initially felt. With that experience, it makes it hard for people to really discern the lines of someone being trustworthy to someone who is being deceitful. Many would also be told that being vulnerable or showing emotions like sadness or even things like crying are signs of weakness. That being emotionally vulnerable is something that is discouraged, if not looked down upon, by certain groups. For example, a lot of boys are told when they are young that being emotionally vulnerable or showing emotions isn't masculine, or it's only for women and girls to cry and to be vulnerable. In reality, this is far from the truth, and this is a toxic way of thinking for not just boys and men, but anybody. There is nothing wrong with being in tune with your emotions. In fact, expressing how you feel says a lot. It's a symbol of strength and the fact that you care about yourself. And it takes a lot to open up and express how you feel. However, it is who you tell your feelings to, how you're telling your feelings to someone, and when to tell them that plays a crucial role in expressing yourself. One thing I also like to point out is that some people may feel ignored or feel like their feelings might be misunderstood by some people, especially the people that they are trying to convey their emotions to, which is actually our next point. One thing that they could feel afraid when it comes to expressing themselves is that they may feel like either they're going to be misunderstood or they're just going to be flat out ignored by people. When their emotions go unheard and unaddressed, they may feel like their voice doesn't really matter when it comes to expressing themselves, making it more likely for them to keep some things to themselves and not allow other people to really look in and see what's going on with them. They may also believe that if they told someone how they really felt, it would be misunderstood and no one would understand them. It would be too challenging for someone to really process and really understand how they're feeling. People, however, also may ignore these emotions. They may feel like those emotions are minuscule and doesn't really matter. To them, they may believe that their feelings are just a distraction and doesn't really mean anything to them, and that they shouldn't be addressed. That it's best to just bury these problems and hide these emotions. However, trying to bury and suppress these emotions will make it more likely for them to emerge and appear with a harder force. Emotions can be, at times, challenging to convey and get across to people, or even be addressed. But if one is thorough and clear in what they are expressing, and actually pay attention and acknowledge there is an issue plaguing them, dialogue and progress could be made and help get to the root of what is wrong with them. Even though there are perhaps dozens of points that I've missed, I believe that this point is very poignant to address. Some people who are trying to communicate their emotions fear that they could be given bad advice or be misguided by people that they are talking to. When it comes to finding a solution to a problem, especially when it involves someone who isn't in tune with their emotions, getting the proper advice is essential. With the proper guidance and advice, it can help someone grow and navigate the situation more clearly. Not only that, it can also help light the spark in them to discover ways or methods to express themselves and how to really control and deal with their emotions to help them flourish as a person. However, if that person is given unsound and bad or even dangerous advice, this person who is in need may take this advice to heart and follow with that. Not only that, they can also use that bad advice that they were given and give it to someone else who are just like them, who are in their situation, who are hurting with pent-up emotions and they're in need of guidance. With all these culminating fears together, it can make it hard to almost impossible for someone who has all those unchecked and imbalanced emotions to really be provided the help that they need. A personal story I like to tell is that throughout my life, I found it really hard to talk to people about how I feel. I would normally keep things to myself, and I didn't want to be perceived as weak for telling people how I felt. Not only that, I had a serious trust issue when it came to telling people how I felt about things. And I also didn't want to upset people like my parents or my friends when it came to telling them how I felt about things. Like if I was feeling unhappy or depressed, or what exactly is hurting me deep down inside. I just believe that suppressing these unhealthy feelings and sweeping them under the rug would be the best solution, since, in my eyes, it was the perfect way to avoid conflict involving not just with other people, but with myself. But over time, I slowly began to realize how damaging it was hiding all these emotions and just keeping it to myself, because it was not just hurting me physically, but also mentally and, again, emotionally. With the needed support from people like my friends and my family, and the hardship I endured to get to where I am today as a better version of myself who, yes, still may have moments of depression or just feeling unwell, is still keeping his head up high and always looking forward to another tomorrow. For years, I've been getting counseling to better assist myself in my emotional journey. And frankly, there should be no shame in saying, I have a therapist, and I'm getting the help I need through therapy. Therapy can be a beautiful and well-meaning experience that if you really take the time and seriously put actual effort in, you can really get in touch with your emotions and understand yourself more. It could be anxiety-inducing at first, but if you give a good therapist the opportunity and time to really get an idea of who you are and to understand more, they can be able to provide you with constructive ways on how you can better yourself, how to better control yourself, while also expressing what you are feeling with someone in a more sustainable way, rather than just bottling your emotions and causing outbursts against others, especially those who are only trying to help you. And I just want to make this point clear and to recite it, that there is nothing wrong with expressing how you feel. It's all about how you do it and what you shouldn't do, like bottling and ignoring it. It's okay to open up to people. Just be smart on who you open up to and really ask yourself, are they the right person to ask for help? And also ask yourself if the advice they're giving you is really the best advice. If not, or if you want a second opinion, that's fine. And there is no shame or harm in asking for help, whether it's from a trusted friend or family member or even a professional. Maybe, just maybe, you can use this podcast to help better yourself. I heard it's very useful, yet therapeutic. A quote I like to give you is from famed Hungarian psychologist, Dr. Edith Eger. She once said, "Suppressing the feelings only makes it harder to let them go. Expression is the opposite of depression." What that quote means, or at least what it means to me, is that if you only rely on suppressing your emotions, it will only make it difficult for you to really get to the root causes of the issue. And with the power of expressing yourself, it can help combat and tackle issues that persist and plague the two key factors when it comes to discussing our emotions: our beating hearts and our powerful minds. Well, my friend, you have reached the end of this lovely discussion. To ensure you are in the right headspace and you continue to follow the path of progress, to better equip yourself with the sage wisdom to help guide you on your journey we call life. If you wish to continue our weekly talks on how to become a better version of yourself, my suggestion is to press the follow or subscribe button wherever you are listening to this fine podcast. And if you feel like someone could be in need to hear these words to stir them to the path of progress and to feel empowered, informed, and inspired, why not share this podcast and its teachings to them? Until next time, keep the candle burning.
Thank you for listening to Enlightenment with Julian Nicholas. We hope today's episode has sparked new insights and empowered you on your path to personal growth. For more inspiration and wisdom, be sure to subscribe and follow. Connect with Julian on Instagram at enlightenment_pod. And if you found value in the show, please tell someone else. Join Julian next time as he continues his journey towards enlightenment. Until then, remember to embrace your journey and live your best life.